I think my favourite thing from the auction was when we all started John's little stretching campaign at the start. So for those that didn't attend, like John tried to warm the crowd up with a few, stretches of the upper arm ready for auction time.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to the Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I am joined by only one superstar of the pod today, Patrick Berry. Welcome to the studio, my friend.
Yep, best.
Flies,
the best
yes,
of the
the
rest.
best. Well, yeah. Look, I didn't want to throw it out there, but I will say the best of the rest is sitting opposite me. We worked out that John is Ulverston, Devonport, somewhere in the north of the state.
Somewhere there. Just randomly came up yesterday and said, heading up to REIT board meeting for the next 3 days, Paddy. See you when I get back.
Well, see, I heard a rumour that he's getting media trained for this event. Like he's got a so Basti came in and said, J-Mac's getting media trained. I said,
Is that what they're doing up there?
I don't know, apparently something like that, just so he doesn't put his foot in it. And I said, well, that's kind of John's bread and butter. Putting his foot in it, digging a hole and getting out of it is what he lives for.
They don't want him to be on camera reporting on behalf of the REIT until he's media trained.
Well, look, the funny thing is, I'll shout out there for John, is he has a way with words and he has a way of digging holes, getting out of them. So, yes, I can imagine they're trying to ascertain something out of him, and REIT president said this. And so the whole world comes crashing down. But speaking of the way that he can spin words, just across the weekend, I went to my first ever auction. I've never been to one.
It's funny you say that because you said digging a hole and that made me think of the auction because it was like a development site.
Well, yeah, look, I don't probably, as I drove up to the auction, there was like a big, MKH, the trailer that you were borrowing from your mate who does excavation. I'm like, man, these guys are prepared. Like
we are ready to
buy the property. They're going to dig at the moment. Like the hammer comes down, we're breaking dirt.
And I tell you what, for a split second there when John was doing the auction, I did get the urge to bid.
Did you start scratching your nose and think like, I'm going to raise it a little higher?
I was thinking that seems pretty good value for money at the moment.
Yeah, look, so yeah, shout out to all the people that showed up and shout out to Aaron and John for their marketing campaigin.
Yeah, 45 people turned up to the auction, 48 people somewhere there. So the front yard was just heaving with people.
I know, it was crazy. I kind of pulled up and I was like, I can't find a park. I didn't expect this. So I rolled along. It wasn't too far from my place and I thought I'd come and grab some happy snaps and some stock footage for the company, and I roll in and I'm like, holy moly, there's people everywhere.
It's because can't find a park because idiots like me turned up with a giant trailer and truck.
Here's what it is. So, yeah, they ran the auction. John, in typical John fashion, had some interesting sales points. I think there was like 37,000 cats would fit on the property.
Something like that, or 38 cricket pitches or something he described the size of the land with. It was.
I thought he should have mentioned it, and half a football stadium. It would have fit on there pretty well. So...
But I think my favourite thing from the auction was when we all started John's little stretching campaign at the start. So for those that didn't attend, like John tried to warm the crowd up with a few, stretches of the upper arm ready for auction time. I
did quite enjoy that. That one was pretty ripe. The thing I really liked was seeing Aaron Murray doing the kind of working the crowd and the bidders and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we had four bidders on the day.
Yeah.
And watching Murray walk around all four and, this is pretty good. You don't want to let this one go over that buyer over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to him for getting amongst it and kind of, working the buyers. So, to see them work as a team and try and, get the thing over the line, I quite enjoyed it. I was like, I think I leant over to you and said, I feel like I'm in Melbourne. Like, this feels legit.
Oh, your friend Mark from school was there and he said it felt like a Melbourne auction.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, even he leant over and he said, what do you reckon? Me and you, we could go halves in this bad boy. I said, I've been looking into my mortgage, but I don't think I could settle on this one.
Imagine if you went home. So Sarah, about that auction.
You know how we went and checked out that house the other day? Well, I found us one and a whole lot of land. So, look, shout out to the crew for putting that together. It was a fun little event and something kind of, unexpected across my journey in real estate, what it's been. I know we've talked about this before. Why aren't auctions as popular here as, you hear about the auction results in the mainland every weekend?
I think it comes down to population and supply and demand.
Yeah.
I think if I was to think why auctions work really well in Melbourne is there's such a high volume of people that live there. And so homes are seen, especially in really popular areas. Like I'm sure Melbourne's known as auction capital.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
But I could guarantee not every suburb of Melbourne is prone for auction campaigns.
Okay. Yep. Sure.
I think we see it in the media, much like we see Australia's prices are dropping by 5%. We're not seeing that here in Hobart, but
yeah. Well, this is the same thing with the rental thing. Like,
rental crisis and how we're not seeing that here in Hobart. Like, I think with auctions, Melbourne is seen as the capital, but I would guess, and I'm correct, if anyone from Melbourne is listening and they are a real estate agent, feel free to tell me I'm 100% wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just feel like maybe certain suburbs are popular as far as auctions go, but other suburbs not so much.
That'd actually be a really interesting stat to look up. I'm sure there's a way of working out like how many are private treaty and how many are auctions and seeing like a little map. I reckon realestate.com would have something.
Yeah, so I reckon your inner suburbs like your Hawthorns, your St Kildas, all of those ones that are sort of that 20-minute drive from CBD.
Everybody's wanting to get in here,
I reckon
get to those.
They are prime for auctions, but I reckon those newer build suburbs that are 45 minutes out on the highway.
More private treaty out that way.
But I might be wrong, but I'm just guessing.
No, look, you're the agent. You know the stuff.
I think that's why down here in Tassie it doesn't work. Like, you got to have a pretty unique property. If I was just to auction a 3-bed, 2-bath property in Glenorchy, it probably wouldn't get much traction as far as an auction goes.
Well, even
you've got
like,
to have a spin or something unique about it.
Yes, and even in this property, like it was a really great development opportunity. If the developers aren't looking or like building seems to have come to a standstill.
Yep.
Despite needing houses being grown everywhere. Grown. I just said like that. Can we just plant a seed and the house will grow? Imagine that. Now there's a business idea. I'll go to Shark Tank with that. It's called a house seed. And what you do is you pop it in the ground.
Well, you've seen on TikTok those fruits that they put in the plastic mold and they grow into.
Oh, I get sucked into all those things. Yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can make a tomato that looks like a skull.
So ridiculous.
They get me every time. But yeah, so look, obviously, you've got a rare opportunity for a developer, but you've got to have the right market and you've got to have the right people looking. So totally makes sense. Gotcha.
No problem, Robber.
Just having a man in a motorbike suit tell me that he's going to meet me somewhere. Got a drug deal to do.
It did have GTA vibes about it.
All right. Well,
it's because it's built like this.
the muscle man.
I've no idea where we were now.
No, we're talking about development. Hold on a sec. So, look, I'm going to jump from development to development. I walked
development to development.
Well, look, we were talking about the development of this place and there's not developers doing anything up there. But I saw an article and I know I've seen you looking at it because I walked past your computer and you were having a little yarn. You know what I'm going to bring up?
I do know what you're going to bring up.
The Brighton Foreshore.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Brighton Foreshore because I've seen it. I had a very clickbaity. It said new development, 32 homes or something on the Brighton Foreshore. And I'm like, where the bloody hell is the Brighton Foreshore?
Well, looking at the Mercury comments, I think there was 120 comments and they're all basically Brighton's inland. Yeah. There is no foreshore.
That's what I was trying to knock out.
There's a tiny little rivulet.
Yeah. I was like, man, like what? If you can sell that, you can sell anything.
Look, the Mercury, they're all about clickbait these days. They've got to convince you to open up the article, but the Mercury is referring to Bridgewater. Not because they're idiots and don't know the difference between Bridgewater and Brighton. But Bridgewater falls into the Brighton municipality.
Okay.
So it's like saying Mona is in Glenorchy. Technically it's in Berridale, but it's still in the Glenorchy
city.
Yeah, the city
council.
of Glenorchy.
Yep, in that catchment.
I guess that's how you sort of look at it. And it sounds more impressive, I guess, to say Brighton than Bridgewater in the article.
It was so perplexing. And as Pat's mentioned, it's inland for anybody that's not in the area. So this, tiny little town inland and then this foreshore idea. But looking at the plans, looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's a buckload of units. Oh, I think it's 3-bedroom and 1-bedroom apartments they're building in this complex, offering 53 car parks as well as for off-site parking. So it looks like a really good development and a really good opportunity to get a huge amount of volume of homes.
And with the bridge, the Bridgewater Bridge being redeveloped and planned to be finished 2 years from now, 1 year from now?
I have no idea. 2028, I thought.
Oh, so that far off?
Away, I think.
Man.
But I might be way and truly wrong.
No, I could be. Well, one of us is wrong. We're all wrong.
Fact check.
But with that coming in and that kind of speeding up that transition from outer city to inner city could definitely raise prices in that area.
You'd expect it would have to. Like, look at Rokeby compared to what it was 10 years ago. That Glebe Hill estate being built and sort of coming up to the Rokeby-Clarendon Vale border has just shifted that whole area as well.
Well, it's got its own Maccas and stuff like that up there now and, parks and kind of actually my kids go play there often with the in-laws, and they love it. And it's, a buzzing little kind of.
So I think if you look at that as an example of how a suburb can change and become more valuable relatively fast, things like the Bridgewater Bridge, the new shopping centre, there's the new Brighton High School that's currently under construction as well. All of those, and that's actually in Brighton, not in all of those things are things, though, that are going to grow that area and improve the value in that area over time.
All right, so
we're good on the segues today.
Now, this is where I want to – you're talking about prices growing in this area.
Yeah.
I'm talking about another Mercury article, which we were going to talk about last week. You're going to be able to pull the stats up on it for me. But literally it was saying the fastest growing – anyway, the button point on it is a Bridgewater home
was worth $1 million.
Could be worth $1 million in 5 years' time.
I think that's what it was. Cut to a commercial while I quickly bring up this.
Well, while you're bringing that up, again, it came across the desk of my understanding of it is the amount of growth that's been happening. This is from PropTrack. The amount of growth that's been happening in the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to extrapolate that into the future, homes in Bridgewater could be worth up to $1 million.
And that's the argument. Whether or not that is the case, I think there was a similar article not long ago about Gagebrook as well, but not quite hitting the $1 million mark. So a few different people are looking at these models, and once again, it's clickbait. Like at the end of the day, someone's seeing a heading that says Bridgewater worth $1 million. You're
going to look at it.
You're going to be, especially if you're in the area, you're going to be like, holy shit. Blue collar areas to go to 1 million by 2028. Future median prices for suburbs revealed. So they're expecting Bridgewater to be a top performing suburb with a staggering 134% increase in the median sale price.
And that does it say for how long across
It goes on in this particular article, and we will share this, I assume, in the show notes, to exceed $1 million and get to 1.124 million. With New Norfolk and Primrose Sands expected to hit 1,080,000 as well. So these are some crazy numbers they're predicting. And, in hindsight, you can't really expect it to happen. But
did we have a discussion just out in our bunker? Were we saying, like, imagine 10 years ago if you'd have told somebody that you'd be paying $400,000 for a place in Bridgewater?
Well, we were talking about this because when I was in 2007, I started selling homes. And I sold a lot in the Bridgewater area, and they were ranged from 120 to 150.
Yeah.
Like a really polished home, like top of the line in Bridgewater was 180, and that was a stupid price for it.
Yes.
Now you're getting 480 for some properties in Bridgewater. I sold one a week or two ago for 455,000. And this is 10 years.
So if you take that kind of
that's
data, that's how they've worked out this
model
number
to project.
Yes.
Right? So we've seen go from 150 to 450. Like it's a ridiculous percentage of growth.
And so kind of at the moment, what we're seeing with obviously the interest rate rises and inflation and trying to get the economy back into a state of normality, we're seeing the market kind of dip at this stage. But in a few years' time, could it kick back into gear and then end up with numbers like this making sense?
It'll have to hit that number one day, whether or not it's between now and 2028. I don't think so, in all honesty. You have to remember these mainland economists, they're looking at suburbs right across the country, and they're solely looking at past performance data and using that performance over a period of time to predict future performance.
Sure.
Where we all know things don't always work that way.
No.
They're not taking into account area, what it has to offer, things like that. And they're just looking solely on numbers. So we would have to have, I would hate to even think how you would fathom prices at that sort of price without some major wage growth as well.
And then I would say, like, from there, if you were to bring it in, then your Glenorchies are going to be worth 1.7.
Well, that was the interesting thing about this article. So I've got the graph here, and it's predicting only an 81% growth for Glenorchy, which was only going to put it at $1,001,001. So this is the stupid thing. They're basically saying Bridgewater is going to be worth $120,000 more than Glenorchy.
Okay.
So anyone that lives in southern Tasmania knows that that's probably not going to be the case. Glenorchy has way more services. It's closer to Hobart. It's got a lot more to offer than Bridgewater currently does. So there's no way a further outlining suburb
could be worth more
than an inland, a closer suburb to the CBD.
Yeah.
Because if you've got the choice between buying in Glenorchy, which is a 10-minute drive to Hobart, or buying in Bridgewater, which is a 30-minute drive to Hobart, who's paying $125,000 more for Bridgewater over Glenorchy?
Yeah, and then you've got to think of like the age of a bunch of the properties. Like I guess the only thing that Bridgewater might have over Glenorchy in 5 years' time is that there might be a bunch more new properties because there's more area to build these new developments.
So you've got that going for it. It would have to be a lot of new homes, and because they've got to offset the older homes.
Well,
So, if you've got 3,000 homes in the area, you'd have to build a bucket load to sell at that higher price to
7,000 new ones in the Brighton Foreshore.
Like, I'm all for economists working out things. It'd be interesting to get a different economist like Domain or realestate.com. I think REA have 5 or 6 economists on their payroll.
Yep.
Like PropTrack has 1. So it'd be interesting. Nothing against this guy.
Oh, no, look,
it'd be really interesting to see
crunch the numbers and bring it all together.
These other economists predict for some of these suburbs. Because, it to me doesn't seem viable.
No, look, it's
I think there will be growth there. And I think if you are a long-term investor, then buying in the area now, you wouldn't lose money.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Murray here in the office, he's talking about new financial year about buying another rental property, and he's got Bridgewater and Gagebrook on his shortlist.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he believes there will be growth. And I'm not denying there won't be, but I don't think there's going to be 134% in growth in that period of time.
That's a monstrous number.
Like, geez, if we saw 50% growth, that would be still a ridiculous price. You're up $700,000-800,000.
I was going to say that's an $800,000 home in Bridgewater.
Yeah. So even 50% doesn't seem at this point
feasible.
Yeah. But who knows?
Look, the numbers don't lie. It'd be interesting to see what happens. It's very exciting.
The bit that I just can't get my head around is how this same report hasn't predicted Glenorchy to increase more than that.
Yeah.
Like, I get that they're saying Glenorchy's already higher in value, so therefore it
doesn't have as far
to grow.
Yep.
I understand that, but I still can't understand how a suburb that's closer with more features cannot be worth more than an outlying suburb.
Yeah, so I guess the way that you've got Glenorchy already as a hub of excitement and things happening. Like, obviously we live in the area, so we're going to be talking it up sort of thing. And Bridgewater is being growing.
Getting there. Like, they have got some really good community events happening out there, and they've got some really strong drivers out there that are getting things up off the ground.
I think the Winter Feast thing, remember last year we had the crew from the Kudalana Collective come in and talk up their Winter Feast. I think that's coming along later this month.
And in the Bridgewater community.
In the Bridgewater area, yeah.
They also do a really good youth week event that we're always part of as well. So there are some really good community events happening. But I think the Glenorchy still just has that little bit more happening. Like,
well, speaking of happening things, this is funny, and kind of the flannelette curtain. I was just on the weekend. Did you head along to that To the North festival, the market?
I did, and I froze my backside off. Far out, it was cold.
But, all right, so anyone out there, To the North is in its 3rd year of running. It's run by the crew that do St. Albie, and it's in Moona. It's just along Albert Road. They had a market. I think it started off with like 20 stalls. Last year was 40 stalls. It was up to about 80 stalls this year. I went along. It was a hive of activity. There was things happening everywhere.
So you got there a lot later than I did. I was there at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it was a good crowd, but it felt empty. So I saw photos that you took later.
Heaving.
So I went at 8:30, grabbed some coffee and a breakfast before I went off to BMX racing.
And had some Filipino breakfast.
Yeah, I did. But I also had a toasted sandwich from the toasted sandwich shop.
Yeah.
And that took nearly 15 minutes to get. I would hate to think by the time you got there how long it was taking to get a toasted sandwich.
Wow. We tried to get donuts, and they were actually they were like, it's about 30 minutes away off just for the fryer to do all the donuts.
Jeez.
So I said, Jack, we might have to go get an ice cream.
Well, we might have to stop at Coles.
Yeah, something like that. But that being said, got a coffee from the crew at Sage and Lily. That was delicious. And it was just a cool little event in this hub. I actually had to explain to Jack. I said, we're going to this market. And he said, supermarket. I said, no, outdoor market. What? It doesn't have a roof? I was like, no, mate, this one doesn't have a roof. This is out in the open and you get to walk on the road. And knowing how much he loves garbage bins, I got to see every single garbage bin at this event. And don't you worry, there was no rubbish on the ground. There was piles and piles of rubbish in red bins, green bin, yellow bins. They were all covered. So anybody that needs to know about waste management in and around Moona and Glenorchy,
Jack's your man.
Jack's your man. So don't you worry about that.
No, I think the guys did a great job. I love how this event keeps growing each year, and it seems to get bigger and better each year. I'd love the fact that it also brings a lot of the local businesses in on it as well. So there's that nice crossover. A lot of it seems to be things from within the community itself.
Yeah. No, the crazy bit of it is that it's kind of that little hipster side of Moona, which 10 years ago or before the flannelette curtain kind of moved, wasn't hipster. It was kind of more your boomer market. The amount of young people I saw with hip hats and
but just keep in mind, I think Moona's going to be worth less than Bridgewater in another 5 years.
Well, look, that's kind of
that's the bit I don't get.
Yeah, that's the bit I don't get. So it's very interesting that's where we're going. Very nice, way of popping that together, Pat.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
No problem, mate.
I think that's all we got time for today. We don't have John to kind of spin his wheels and give us time to think about what we're actually saying.
We're really under the pump.
Yeah. So good luck up north. I know you're in the Miami of Tasmania, Ulverston, because your dad's over in Miami at what's the event? He's at a real estate event in Miami. Chris. Yeah.
I don't know what the event's called.
No. Oh, well, he's over there doing that. So the McGregor boys are out and about in the Miamis of their respective areas.
Yep. They're just
learning about real estate and getting it done.
And hopefully J-Mac will be back on the mic next month. Because I'm not counting this month.
No, you never know. I
realised I meant to say next week.
No, you never know with that guy.
But
he'll be media trained. He'll come in and he'll be just like, boys, I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say this. These are and it'll be like, yeah, it's just a good team effort. We jumped in and I don't want any individual accolades. It was all just about the team. So, thanks, J-Mac. Yeah, appreciate that.
I can't wait to see him on the mic next week.
Looking forward to it. All right. Thanks, guys. That's the Property Pod for another week.
Ciao.
Bye.
I think that flowed pretty well.
You have been listening to the Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.